Tonight, I invite you to a bamboo forest in ancient Japan. Imagine. Take a deep breath. Fresh air fills your lungs. The scent of the wild. You walk through deep, shadowy green. And there at the roots of a bamboo, a corpse lies still. From the evidence, it appears to be murder. Now, alongside an officer of ancient law, you will gather testimonies from those who crossed paths with the dead. Piece their stories together. Perhaps you will uncover the truth. In a grove, Ryunosuke Akutagawa. The woodcutter's account to the police tribunal. Yes, that's correct. I was the one who found the body. This morning, as usual, I went into the back mountain to cut some cedar. That's when I saw the corpse lying in the shade, deep in the bamboo grove. Where exactly? About 4 to 5 chu, roughly 4 to 500 meters off the main road through Yamashina. It was a lonely place where the bamboo grows thick and thin, cedar trees mingle among them. The man was lying on his back, dressed in a blue Suican robe, with a worn-out court cap still on his head. There was a single stab wound to the chest, and though it was only one blow, the fallen leaves around him looked soaked in a dark purplish red, as if the color had seeped into the ground. No, the blood had already stopped flowing. The wound looked dry, and on top of that, a single horsefly clung to the body, undisturbed even by the sound of my footsteps. You ask whether I saw a sword or anything of the sort. No, there was nothing of that kind nearby. Just one length of rope lying at the base of a cedar tree. Oh, and one more thing. There was a comb. Aside from those two, nothing else lay around the body. That said, the grass and the fallen bamboo leaves were trampled all over. So I'd guess the man must have put up quite a fight before he was killed. As for whether there was a horse, well, no horse could have gotten in there to begin with. The trail for horses runs on the other side of the bamboo grove. The traveling priest's account to the police tribunal. Yes, I certainly saw that man yesterday. It was, let me think, around noon, I believe. I met him on the road from Sekiyama to Yamashina. He was walking alongside a woman who rode a horse, heading in the direction of Sekiyama. The woman wore a veil that covered her face, so I couldn't see her clearly. All I could make out was the color of her kimono, something like autumn bush clover. The horse she rode had a pale, moon-colored coat. I think it was one of those Hoshigami horses, the kind monks sometimes keep. Its size? perhaps 4 sun, about 12 centimeters, taller than average. But as a priest, I can't say I know the finer details of horse breeds. As for the man, yes, he carried a sword and a bow and arrows as well. What I recall most clearly is the quiver he wore, black lacquered and filled with about 20 arrows. That image is still vivid in my memory. Who could have imagined that such a fate would befall him? Truly, the life of a human being is as fleeting as morning dew or a flash of lightning. Such a sorrowful thing. There's no other way to put it. The testimony of the law enforcer. The man I captured. Yes, there's no mistake. He was Tayomaru, the notorious bandit. When I apprehended him, he was groaning and collapsed on the stone bridge at Awataguchi. He might have fallen off a horse. As for the time, it was around the beginning of nightfall yesterday. The last time I failed to catch him, he was also wearing that same dark blue Suican robe with the Uchidashi-style sword at his side. This time, as you can see, he also had a bow and arrows on him. So, the dead man had those same items. Then, without a doubt, Tajomaru is the killer. A leather-wrapped bow, a black lacquered quiver, and 17 arrows with hawk feathers. He carried them all. And the horse, too. Yes, just as you said, it was a Tsukigi, a moon-colored horse with a priest's cropped mane. That beast threw him off. Surely it was some kind of karmic retribution. I found the horse a little ahead of the bridge, its reins dragging along the ground as it quietly munched on green pampas, grass by the roadside. This Tajomaru fellow is well known among the bandits in the capital for being obsessed with women. Last autumn, there was that case behind the statue of Binsuru at Toribi Temple. A married woman who came to pray was found dead with her daughter. Word is, he was the one behind it. And the woman who rode that Tsukigi horse. If this man killed her companion, I shudder to imagine what became of her. Forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn, but I ask that you look into her whereabouts as well. The old woman's testimony. Yes, that body belonged to the man who was to marry my daughter. He wasn't from the capital. He served as a samurai at the provincial office in Wakasa. His name was Takehiro Kanazawa. He was 26 years old. No, he was a kind, gentle man. There's no way he could have made enemies. My daughter, her name is Masago. She's 19. She's strong-willed, as strong as any man, perhaps. But I swear she has never known any man other than Takehiro. She has a slightly dark complexion, a small oval face. There's a mole under her left eye. Takehiro left with her yesterday, heading toward Wakasa. And yet, for this to happen, what cruel fate is this? I've come to terms with losing my son-in-law. But my daughter, what became of her? That alone haunts me. Please, I beg you. Let this be the final wish of an old woman. Search for her, even if you must push through thickets and woods. Please find her. And the one I truly hate more than anyone is that thief, Tajomaru, or whatever he calls himself. He didn't just take my son-in-law. He took my daughter too. Breaks down in tears, unable to speak further. Tajomaru's confession. I'm the one who killed that man. But I didn't kill the woman. So where did she go? That I truly don't know. Please, hear me out. No matter how much you torture me, I can't speak of what I don't know. And now that things have come to this, I won't hide behind cowardice. I'll tell you everything. I met the couple just past noon yesterday. As we passed each other on the road, a gust of wind lifted the cloth veil, hiding the woman's face. For an instant, just a flicker, I saw her face. In that single moment, she looked to me like a goddess, a sacred, serene presence. And in that very moment, I decided I would take her for my own, even if it meant killing the man. Killing a man, it's not such a big deal. Not the way you people think. If you want to take a woman, you have to kill the man. It's inevitable. Sure, I use a blade. But you kill with power, with money, sometimes even with words. No blood is spilled. On the surface, the man still walks and breathes. But you've killed him all the same. So who carries the heavier sin? You or me? I wonder. Smiles wryly. Of course, if I could have taken her without killing him, that would have been ideal. In fact, I hoped I wouldn't have to kill. But not on the main road through Yamashina. Too risky. So I devised a plan to lure them into the forest. It wasn't difficult. After we walked together a while, I began to tell them a story. There's an old burial mound up ahead. When I dug into it, I found mirrors and blades, treasures hidden away. I buried them again in a thicket. If you're interested, I'll sell them cheap. The man's eyes lit up. Desire is a dangerous thing. Within half an hour, They had followed me off the road. When we reached the thicket, I said, "The treasure is buried in here. Come see." The man, blinded by greed, agreed without hesitation. But the woman stayed on the horse. She said she'd wait. No surprise. Not with that dense brush ahead. To be honest, that was exactly what I'd hoped for. I left her behind and led the man into the trees. The bamboo thicket continued for some time, but after walking about half a chu, roughly 500 meters, we reached a slightly open grove of cedars. It was the perfect place to carry out what I had in mind. As I pushed aside the underbrush, I said, "The treasure is buried beneath those cedars." It was a lie, of course, but one that sounded convincing enough. The man believed me. He rushed forward toward the thin cedars that had begun to show through the bamboo. Soon, the bamboo thinned, and we came upon an area lined with tall cedars. As soon as we reached it, I sprang on him and wrestled him to the ground. He wore a sword, so he must have had some strength, but he never stood a chance. Caught off guard, he was quickly tied to the base of one of the trees. A rope, you ask? As a thief, I always carry one. You never know when you'll need to climb over a wall. And to keep him from calling out, I simply stuffed fallen bamboo leaves into his mouth. That was enough. No further trouble. Once he was subdued, I returned to the woman. I told her, "Your husband seems to have fallen ill." And I asked her to come and check on him. She believed me. Of course. She removed her wide-brimmed hat, took my hand, and followed me deep into the thicket. But when she saw her husband tied up at the base of the cedar tree, she suddenly pulled out a small dagger. I don't know when she'd hidden it in her robes. I have never seen a woman with such fierceness. Had I been careless for even a moment, she would have driven that blade straight into my gut. Even dodging her first strike, her flurry of attacks might have left me with serious wounds. But I am Tajomaru. Somehow, without drawing my sword, I managed to knock the dagger from her hand. No matter how fierce the spirit, without a weapon, there is little one can do. And so I got what I wanted. I didn't take the man's life, but I did take the woman. Yes, even then, I had no intention of killing him. But just as I was about to leave the thicket, the woman, weeping on the ground, suddenly clung to my arm like someone possessed. Between gasping breaths, she said, "Either you must die or my husband must die. To show my shame to two men, it is worse than death." That wasn't all. "If one of you survives," she said, then I will go with him. Hearing that, I was overcome. A violent urge rose within me to kill the man. Dark, frenzied emotion. You'll probably think I'm more cruel than any of you, but that's only because you didn't see her face, especially in that fleeting moment. Those burning eyes, you never saw them. When I looked into her eyes, I thought, even if lightning were to strike me dead on the spot, I would still want her as my wife. To make her my wife. That was all I wanted. Nothing else. It wasn't the vile kind of desire you might assume. If I had only been after pleasure, I would have thrown her aside and escaped without a second thought. The man's blood would never have stained my sword. But in the dusky grove, when I looked into her face, I knew. Unless I killed the man, I could not walk away. Still, if I were to kill him, I didn't want it to be cowardly. So I untied him and said, "Draw your sword. Let's settle this properly." The rope you found at the cedar's base, I must have dropped it then and forgotten. His face turned pale. He unsheathed his heavy sword. Without a word, he lunged at me, his rage palpable. There's no need to tell you how the fight ended. On the 23rd clash, my blade pierced his chest. Yes, the 23rd. Please remember that. To this day, I take pride in that alone. Only that man ever exchanged 20 blows with me. No one else in all the land. Bright, proud smile. As he fell, I turned toward the woman, my sword still dripping red. And she was gone. I searched through the cedar grove. Not a trace. The fallen bamboo leaves held no footprints. No signs of where she went. I strained to listen, but all I heard was the dying rattle in the man's throat. Maybe she had run off the moment we began to fight. Maybe she went to find help. That thought chilled me. Now it was my life at stake. So I took the man's sword and arrows and rushed back to the main road. A horse was still there, quietly nibbling the grass. As for everything after that, I have no need to say much. Only this, before entering the capital, I discarded the sword. That's all. That is the full extent of my confession. I know my head will hang from a tree someday. So go ahead, sentence me to death, defiant and unrepentant. The woman's confession at Kiyomizu Temple. That man, the one in the dark blue robe, forced himself on me. Then he turned to my husband, who was tied and helpless, and laughed. A cruel, mocking laugh. My husband, how agonizing it must have been for him. No matter how he struggled, the ropes dug deeper into his body, tightening with every movement. I couldn't help it. I ran. No, I tried to run toward my husband, to fall beside him. But in that very moment, the man kicked me to the ground. It was then I saw it in my husband's eyes. Light, one I still can't describe. Even now, the memory of that gaze makes me tremble. He didn't say a word, but in that one flash of his eyes, he told me everything. Yet what I saw there was not anger, not sadness. It was something colder, contempt, a glare that cut deeper than pain, deeper than the man's kick. Pierced through me, and I screamed. Then everything went black. I must have fainted. My dear, after what has happened, I can no longer stay by your side. I have made up my mind. I will take my own life. But that alone is not enough. You must die too. You saw my shame. I cannot live on, leaving you alone in this world. I said it with all the strength I had left. But even then, my husband only looked at me with disgust. I held my chest as if to keep it from tearing apart, and searched for his sword. But the thief must have taken it. There was no sign of a sword or bow anywhere in the thicket. By some chance, a dagger lay at my feet. I picked it up and once again spoke to my husband. Then, let me take your life. I'll follow you soon after. At those words, his lips finally moved. Of course, his mouth was still stuffed with bamboo leaves, so no sound came out. But the movement of his lips, I understood it at once. He looked at me with that same cold, contemptuous gaze and mouthed the word clearly. Kill me. I, in a dreamlike daze, thrust the dagger deep into the blue fabric over his chest. I must have lost consciousness again. When I came to, my husband was still tied to the tree, but he was no longer breathing. His pale face lay in silence, bathed in a shaft of sunlight that pierced through the mixed canopy of cedar and bamboo above. I bit back my sobs as I untied the ropes from his lifeless body and let them fall away. And after that, What became of me? I no longer have the strength to speak of it. No matter what I did, I simply couldn't die. I tried pressing the dagger against my throat. I tried to throw myself into the pond at the foot of the mountain. I tried all sorts of things, but in the end, I couldn't follow him in death. There's no pride in that. Of course not. She offers a faint, sorrowful smile. Someone as weak as I am, even the great and merciful Canon Bodhisattva, may have turned away from me by now. And yet here I remain, a woman who killed her own husband, a woman defiled by a bandit. What am I supposed to do? What am I? Suddenly a violent sob chokes her voice. The spirit's testimony through the mouth of a shrine maiden. The thief forced himself on my wife. Then, without shame, he sat down beside her and began to speak in a soothing voice. Of course, I, her husband, could not speak. I was tied to the roots of a cedar tree, unable to move. Still, I tried again and again to signal her with my eyes. Don't believe him. No matter what he says, it's all lies. That was what I wanted her to understand. But my wife sat quietly, kneeling on the fallen bamboo leaves, her gaze fixed on her knees. She looked as if she were listening, truly listening, to him. Jealousy and rage twisted inside me. I struggled, bound and helpless. But the thief kept talking, his tone smooth, persuasive. If another man has touched you, your bond with your husband will never be the same. So why not become my wife instead? It was because I cherished you that I went so far. He said that with no hesitation. And my wife, she looked up at him, her face serene, almost dreamy. I've never seen her more beautiful than in that moment. But then, what did that beautiful woman say with me watching, bound before her? I'll never forget. Even after death, I'll never forget. She said clearly, "Then take me wherever you wish." But her guilt did not end there. If it had, I would not suffer like this, in the darkness after death. As she walked toward the edge of the grove, hand in hand with the thief, as if in a dream, she suddenly froze. Her expression changed. She turned, pointed directly at me, and screamed, "Kill him. As long as he lives, I can't be with you." Again and again, like a mad woman, she shouted, "Kill him." Even now, those words fall like a storm, dragging me down into the blackness. Has any human ever spoken with such venom? Has any soul ever heard words so cursed? Sudden burst of mocking laughter. Even the thief turned pale. "Kill him," she cried, clinging to his arm. The thief stared at her, silent. He said nothing, neither yes nor no. Then, without a word, he kicked her to the ground, sending her sprawling into the fallen bamboo leaves. Another burst of laughter. He folded his arms calmly and turned to me. What should I do with her? Kill her? Spare her? Just nod? Should she die? Even that single question was enough to make me want to forgive the thief. Long silence. My wife. While I still hesitated, she cried out something and bolted into the depths of the grove. The thief lunged after her, but not even his fingers grazed her sleeve. I watched it all unfold, as if in a dream. My body frozen, my mind numb. After she vanished, the thief picked up the sword and the bow that had fallen to the ground. Then, cutting just one section of the rope that bound me, he muttered, "Now it's my turn." I remember that clearly. Those were his words as he disappeared beyond the bamboo. Then everything grew quiet, utterly silent. No, a faint sound remained. Someone was crying. As I struggled to free myself, I listened closely. But then I realized the voice I heard was my own. Third long silence. I finally lifted my worn-out body from the roots of the cedar. At my feet, gleaming faintly on the fallen leaves, was the dagger my wife had dropped. I picked it up. Without hesitation, I plunged it deep into my own chest. Something warm, thick and metallic, rose into my mouth. But strangely, there was no pain. None at all. Only a chill in my chest, and with it, a deeper silence than ever before. Ah, what stillness. In this shaded grove, not even a single bird sings. Only the faint, lonely sunlight drifting along the tops of the cedars and bamboo. That sunlight, it too begins to fade. Soon I can see neither cedar nor bamboo. I collapse onto the ground, enfolded in the deepest quiet. Then someone approaches. Soft steps. I try to turn my head. to see who it is. But by then, shadows have already filled the air around me. Someone, a presence without form, gently pulls the dagger from my chest, and in that moment, the taste of blood floods my mouth once more. That was the end. From there, I sank forever into the twilight between worlds.